This was requested recently on my channel. This is how to avoid procrastination and get on with your studies. So I'm Kit and this is Gorilla Physics, and on Gorilla Physics we do GCSE and A-level physics tutorials, but we also do study tip videos just like this one. So if you find this video useful, make sure you like it, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and I'll be back with more study tip videos in the near future. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to give you a way that you can make sure that your time is never wasted and you use all of your revision time usefully. Make sure you keep watching because I'm going to give you a surefire way to make sure you can beat procrastination. So where procrastination comes from is that you're not picking the right task for the right time. It's the case that you know you should be getting on with something, but you don't want to do the thing that you should be doing. And that's because your brain isn't really geared at that moment to do that task that you want it to do. So you have to find a way of picking the right task for the way that you're feeling at that right time. And I suggest you divide up your time into 3 different portions and try and keep a list of tasks for each different time. So these are the 3 portions. The time when you are really engaged, where you're super on it, where you're really happy, when you're looking forward to working, when you are feeling really positive about study. That's when you should be having the highest level task, the hardest study that you can think of. The time when you're interested, you're keen, you do want to do some work, but to be honest, you're a little bit tired and you kind of can't bring yourself to do those really hard things like those exam questions or anything like that. That's the time when you should just be working through material, learning some new stuff, trying to memorize facts. And then finally, the time when you really can't be bothered, where you're too tired and you just want to go to bed, but you feel like you ought to put in some time before you actually call it a night. That's when you should have things just like organizational tasks, just like looking after your folder, making sure you've got things printed out, ready to go for the next day, and ready to go for those times when you do have the energy, when you do have the enthusiasm to do things. So the first thing to do to beat procrastination is to make sure that you understand that once you get going, that it's easier to keep going. It's really hard to get started sometimes. You know you should be doing something, it's really hard just to settle yourself down and get started studying. Once you are going, you kind of get momentum going and you can do some really quality study. So you have to get over that first hurdle. But to avoid procrastination, you have to understand those 3 types of energy that you have. When you're feeling pumped, then you don't want to be settling down to try and do some folder organization. When you're feeling like tired, you don't want to be doing some hard exam questions. You need to get the right task at the right time. And that's hard because you can't really predict that. You can't really decide, I am going to feel really energetic and really enthusiastic about my study at this time of day, and I'm going to do that task. You have to kind of react to how you're feeling during the day. So you have to fit things in when you're in the right mood. And that means you need to keep a list of all the things you want to do, and you need to split them up by different types of mood, and you need to just make sure that when you are in one of those 3 types of moods, you jump on it and you've got a task that's specific to those moods. Let's go through the 3 types of mood. The first one is when you're feeling really pumped, when you're energetic, when you're enthusiastic. That's when you've got the fullest attention. That's when you should be doing the hardest things like the exam questions. It feels great when you feel like that. You feel like you can do anything. You feel really positive. You feel like you've got the energy to focus on your work. Use those hours in the day. Remember though, you only like to have a couple of those hours in the day. And if you go to school that day, you're probably going to have used them up during the day at some point when you had a really great time in the lesson, you worked really hard and really enjoyed what you're doing, and you get home, and funnily enough, you don't feel like tackling the hardest questions at home. The second time is when you are engaged, but you're not really feeling very creative, you're not really feeling very enthusiastic, you just know you want to do some stuff, and you just want to actually get some solid work done. That's when you should be doing the kind of memory recall tasks, doing some self-quizzing, making sure that you're aware of all the different parts of your topics and committing them to memory. And to be honest, this is going to be the bulk of your revision time at home because you're going to use up your real enthusiastic time at school doing the really hard things in the lessons. And that's okay. And finally, you're going to have the time when you know you should be working, but you really can't be bothered and you'd rather be doing anything else. So you need some tasks that's going to require very little brain power and you're just going to work through them, but you know they're going to be useful in the long run. This could be the time when you're organizing things, printing off stuff, but it could also be the time when you're consuming YouTube videos and maybe making a few notes, making the flashcards ready to use, making the questions ready to use when you are feeling more engaged. So what you need to do to avoid procrastination is to make sure you've got a bunch of tasks ready for each of those 3 types of energy. And then you just think to yourself, how do I feel? Right, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling pumped, I'm going to take something from list A, my enthusiastic, my ready to go list. And when you're feeling less so, you just want to get on with something, and you take something from list B, which is just self-quizzing or memorizing a few key items. And then there's the times when you just need to have your YouTube playlist ready to go because you're feeling lazy, you want to have a snack, you want to drink a drink, and you want to just watch something on the screen. There's nothing wrong with that, but you wouldn't want to use your really actively engaged time to do that. Oh, and you know, there's something else you need to get right to increase the time that you have that is that really actively engaged time. You need to make sure you look after your diet, exercise, and sleep. Because you know what? The most important thing that you do is you learn a way to arrive into those exams feeling actively engaged, feeling really positive that you can solve the problems in the exams. That's all about having a really good routine and sticking to it. So here's my surefire way to beat procrastination. What you need to do is every evening you're going to make a really simple list, just 3 items on this list, no more and no less. You're going to think of 3 items that would be useful free things for you to do for your study. Doesn't matter what they are, any free things. And you're going to pick one of those things in that evening to do right then and there. So you get one of them out of the way, and then you leave the other 2. The next morning, you do one of them before 11 o'clock. So you find time before 11 o'clock to fit in one of those useful things. Now I know if you're going to school that might be a bit tricky, but you need to find yourself a little bit of time before 11 o'clock to do one of those things. So those tasks need to involve things that you can fit in to different parts of your day. But certainly if you're having a hardcore revision day, you need to do one of those things before 11 o'clock. It's really important. Now the last one, you need to accept that might never happen, and that's okay. You need to accept it might never happen, but what you can do is you can put it on that evening's list. So every evening you make a list of 3 things, 1 thing straight away, 1 thing the next morning, and the other thing is a nice to have. If it does happen, great. But if it doesn't happen, you don't beat yourself up, you leave it, and you maybe put it on the list if it was important for the next day. And what you're going to get used to doing if you do those things is you're going to get used to picking out tasks that suit different times of day. You're going to get used to picking out tasks that you actually want to do in the evening. You know, settling down to do a full exam paper in the evening. Nobody really wants to do that. Nobody wants to spend 2 hours sitting down, forcing themselves through an exam paper. But flicking through a few recall questions in the evening, that doesn't seem so bad. Or watching some YouTube videos in the evening, that doesn't seem so bad. But waking up early morning on a Saturday and thinking, I'm going to fit in that exam paper before 11 o'clock the next day, and just getting up and doing it, and you're going to feel so pumped for having used that excited, energetic part of your day where you felt like you were into it, where you felt like you wanted to do it. You're going to feel so positive about that, and you're going to carry through till you make your next list the next evening, and you think, right, something for the evening, something for the morning. And you're going to get used to using the different types of energy that you have in the day. And that's the way to beat procrastination. That's the way to be productive, is to always be thinking, yep, what do I want to do right now? I've got a big list. I'm going to tackle the things that actually suit my mood at that time of day. Hope you found that useful. If you did, make sure that you like it, share it, subscribe to my channel, because I'll be back with loads more study tip videos this year.